Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kiran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there. All right, dude. Well,
hey,
it's been a couple of weeks. How are you keeping? You well?
Yeah, I'm really good. I'm very good because we always start this with a conversation about the weather, don't we? Apologies, dear listener. But, my God, how horrible has it been in this country that we call the UK for, oh my God, it feels like 9 months of rain and greyness. And just the fact that the sky is blue once more and there is sun. It's not hot. It's like 18 degrees, but that's fine. It's
balmy
better.
18 degrees. That's not
hot
enough for me. I mean, I'm not a massive heat lover, but it is so nice, isn't it?
Oh my
Just
God,
finally be able to kind of go out into the garden and not feel a chill or damp or, you know, come back in with a frozen shoulder or something like that.
Frozen shoulder of lamb or beef, or is that where you keep your? Is that where you've got a cold meat locker in the garden?
No, I mean just an injury. You know,
that was an injury. Sporting an injury.
Exactly that. Have you done any gigs recently, mate?
Yeah, plenty actually.
Fantastic.
Yeah, some wedding gigs, which have been lovely to do. I do like a good wedding. I know you don't sometimes, but I enjoy it. And then some pub gigs, and I was. I've got the weekend off actually, so no gigs this weekend, which is nice because I've had quite a few recently, which I love, and it's been brilliant. But I've got a family do this weekend, and it's weird. The band will be going out, but with a deck, so it's kind of it's a weird feeling. It's just like to know that they're out playing, but I'm not.
But you're not there.
Yeah, but I had a commitment, so I didn't have to do this gig this weekend. So yeah, but I feel kind of like I'd like to be going out and playing again this weekend, especially because it's nice and sunny.
Yeah,
okay, no worries.
Yeah, man, nice time to be out gigging.
Yeah,
you know, this time of year. But anyway, shall we get straight into it? This one, what we're talking about?
Yes, mate. I'm really excited by this one because I can't believe we haven't done this yet. How have we not done this?
I don't know. I mean, we're 96 episodes in, and we've never done this. We've done some playlists before, right? What best riffs, favorite guitar solos, various things, worst songs to gig, best songs to gig.
Oh yeah, top female guitarist. I had a look at that playlist we did a while back. That's a great playlist on there.
That is a fantastic playlist.
But yeah, I can't believe we haven't done this one because it's such a fundamental part of my day-to-day listening. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I go to this type of stuff a lot. So the fact we haven't done this is kind of like, how?
Yeah.
But we're doing it.
If we're doing it, yeah. But it's a best acoustic tracks or favourite acoustic tracks. See, for me, this isn't necessarily like what I think are objectively the best acoustic songs. But again, it's like we've said before. For me, it's like what the ones that mean the most to me, at least the ones that I consider to be my kind of echelon. You know, the top 10. If you were to say I could only listen to 10 acoustic songs for the rest of my life, then that's hopefully what I've picked today. Although tomorrow it could be a different list.
Of course,
there's probably a handful on there that'll definitely always be on that list. But this is really cool because I don't listen to enough stuff that's kind of acoustic oriented. Whether that's, where the acoustic guitar is by itself or whether it's just part of a band or whether you could kind of say it's an acoustic feel of a song or whether it's a particular acoustic tone within a song, then, I don't listen to enough of that, partly because I don't really own an acoustic. Got a nylon string kind of tucked away in a cupboard, but I haven't got a decent acoustic. I really should get one. I was listening to some of these songs on my list thinking, I'd just love to just sit down and play on these. But that needs to change.
Oh, that so needs to change, especially you've got quite a nice wall amassing behind you now. You've even got a bass guitar on there, right? Which,
yeah, I know.
To have a bass guitar and not have a nice acoustic, we need to take your guitar shopping, my friend. Yeah, you definitely need an acoustic on that wall there. Yeah, look, I mean, for me, if I'm playing at home, I'm playing an acoustic, really. Because I can just grab it straight off the wall, sit down on the sofa and just start playing. And I love that. For most of my youth, it was me with an acoustic guitar on my back, wherever I went, parties, to the beach, whatever, sleep over with friends, mates, little holidays, whatever. I was that guy, sadly. But that was my thing, right? So I wasn't the sporty guy. I wasn't the kind of super intelligent guy. I wasn't the best looking guy. I wasn't the funniest guy. But I was the guy that, rocked up and was a human
playing
jukebox.
More Than Words by Extreme, wouldn't you?
Literally, that was almost on the list, my friend. It went on and then it came off. It went on for nostalgia.
On my list as well. That's probably number 11.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely an honourable mention for the amount of times it assisted in helping give me some kind of reputation. Whatever. Not that kind of reputation. That sounded bad. No, just anyway. It was a popular song of the time, so yeah. But that was me. That was me with an acoustic. And so I've always had a love of acoustic playing, and I still do. Fingerstyle playing, all of that. And my list, I've kind of approached it from, there's stuff on there, like you say about your list, that has that sentimental, just love listening to those songs, whether they happen to be the greatest piece of acoustic guitar playing or not. There's definitely some songs on there that are just massive nostalgia trips for me.
Yeah.
And then there are some others which just inspire me as well, which I just go, oh my God, this is just technical wonderfulness.
Yeah.
And then the third element for me is, and the reason I mention this is because it might help other people that are like this, maybe not, whatever. It's I do a lot of listening to kind of high fidelity music, and I like listening to good hi-fi and stuff. And for me, having some tracks with a really beautifully recorded acoustic guitar that I know how it sounds really helps me when I'm trying to set up hi-fi or audition a set of headphones or whatever it may be, because to me it's an instantly recognizable, familiar tone, and then I can tell from the speakers that I'm listening to whether they're reproducing that faithfully in terms of, does it sound natural? Does it actually sound like the acoustic guitar, or does it sound, too processed, or the EQ is not right? It's because it's such a familiar tone to my ears. I've got a lot of tracks in this playlist which are just great tracks in of themselves, but also for me are absolutely amazing tracks to test out hi-fi and headphones and all of that. So I would say if you're listening to our playlist, try and listen to it on the best thing you've got, because particularly for this playlist, it will put your headphones or your hi-fi to test.
Yeah, it's a really good shout, actually. It's interesting you say that, because also, we listen to a lot of electric guitar, but really, an acoustic guitar is the most naked sounding thing, isn't it, in a way, because it's just obviously the acoustic instrument, and inherently when you're listening to a recorded acoustic guitar, you're kind of listening to the space in front of it, aren't you? And around it, you're not really listening to, it's not like a plugged in, unless somebody's plugged in their acoustic. But yeah, there's something really kind of organic about listening to an acoustic instrument when you're listening to music that makes you feel a little bit closer to the music. In a way, it's like there's a layer taken away between the listener and the performer.
Absolutely, mate. And to get into that nerdy kind of audiophile level without going too far, I mean, using some really nice, well-recorded tracks that on an acoustic really helps showcase what that hi-fi or headphones are capable of. And if it sounds like a natural instrument, that's when you've got that dialed in, or you've got something that suits your taste. And then you can go and play all of your kind of massive orchestral pieces and complex big band stuff and know that it's being reproduced really well and sounds as it should, because if a hi-fi or a set of headphones can do that acoustic piece justice, and the instruments sound natural, and exactly as you said, that space between
and all the detail as well, isn't it? When an acoustic guitar is really well recorded, there's so much detail to be had, like the sound of the pick on the strings. I'm kind of closing my eyes now as I.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's
When
it.
you listen to something, you can hear just like the finger movement on the string and the slight buzzing of like the lower strings sometimes, and the moving in front of the guitar. There's so much detail to be heard. You know, it's incredible.
Oh, you're talking my language now. And when you get it absolutely right with a track, sorry, you started it now. When you get it absolutely right with a track, honestly, this isn't the snake oil moment or the kind of cork sniffing as you like to call it. But if you've got it right and the speakers or headphones or whatever you're listening to that's of good quality is doing the job right, you can close your eyes and you can fully visualize in front of you in an almost three-dimensional way that soundstage of that person sitting there playing that instrument and where they are relative to the guitar and all of that. And it's entirely doable on a good set of headphones or a good hi-fi setup. And I don't think anything does that as well as a well-recorded acoustic. Right, that's enough of the enough of that, because otherwise I will talk for days.
Exactly, yeah. I know. Well, maybe that is one to talk about, and maybe that's a topic for another podcast. You know, how we listen to music. And but anyway, let's just quickly go through what we're doing. So we said we would each pick 10 tracks that we think are 10 of the best, or at least 10 of our best, the 10 acoustic tracks that we think, are our favourites or the best acoustic tracks. And the only rules really are that, there aren't really rules, just guidance, but it doesn't have to be a fully acoustic or solo acoustic track. It can be, a hybrid of electric and acoustic, as long as there's some acoustic elements in there. It doesn't have to be originally acoustic. It could be an electric track originally that has been, there's been an acoustic version done of it. And it could also be with a full band with a recognizable acoustic part, so it doesn't have to be a fully acoustic band. But we're kind of looking for tracks here that we would consider to have an important acoustic element to it.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel about it. But I think most of my list is just kind of mostly really quite traditional. No, not traditional, but a lot of it is just relatively standard acoustic stuff. And I'm kind of excited about it, actually, because a lot of this stuff also, not only have I not listened to for ages, I haven't played for ages. So I'm definitely going to have a good listen to this playlist and yours over the weekend. But how should we start, dude? Do you want me to kick off or you to kick off? Or
Actually, could I just do a quick timeout?
Yeah,
sorry, buddy. You'll need to edit this. For some reason, my audio stopped after 3 minutes in terms of recording.
No worries.
I've restarted it just 2 minutes ago. Are you recording the Zoom audio? Will there be something off of that?
Yeah, I could probably nick a bit off that. If not, then whatever I've missed, it potentially might not be important. I can just chop it out. But don't worry about that. It's all right. We'll crack on.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, mate. This is I'm turning into a bit of a nightmare today.
Maybe you lent on it or something.
I think I did. I think it's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to kick off, if that's all right. Right. So,
please.
Top of my list is there was always going to be one track off this album and I was certain that both of us would have at least one track off Clapton Unplugged. Right. But it's an obvious choice for me because that's the album that got me playing guitar. And then when I was learning guitar, my first guitar teacher, I'd picked up some songs from Bert Weedon, Playing a Day. That was the first kind of learning that I had for a month or so. And then I had a guitar teacher, and he taught me, first of all, within the first couple of lessons, a couple of scales and like chords to a slow 12-bar blues. And then we went straight into Tears in Heaven. And that went really well. So that was like, not only was it off the album that got me playing guitar, and it was the biggest hit off that album, it was really the first complete song I ever learned on guitar. And I actually think it's probably one of the simpler songs off the album to play. Maybe not, I don't know. But it's such a beautiful song. Obviously, very sad song, but it's a great song to play. It's beautifully recorded. And yeah, top of my list for me, Tears in Heaven.
It was a huge track when it came out, right? Obviously, because of the very tragic story around it. Great choice. And a nylon string. Classical.
Nylon, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always loved the sound of his playing on the acoustic on the Unplugged album performance, not the recorded version. I don't know. He gets such it's just such a nice tone from his nylon string. I've never been able to get that kind of sound. I don't know why. I'm assuming he's got a very expensive, very well intonated nylon string.
Absolutely.
But it just sounds so nicely played.
Doesn't it?
It's great, man. Yeah. But anyway, that's number one for me. I'm going to hand the baton back to you.
Awesome. Well, look, let's stay with that theme because it wasn't ever going to be a playlist around the best acoustic tracks by me and you if there wasn't Eric Clapton's Unplugged album here.
Sorry to interrupt this conversation. However, if you're a regular listener, then do us a favour. Share us with your friends. Spread the word. Help us to grow. And remember to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcasts. Let's get back to the show.
And for me, whilst Layla is arguably the probably most memorable or quintessential song off that whole performance and album, maybe more, or no, maybe just second to Tears in Heaven. For me, the standout track is the acoustic version of Old Love, which I just absolutely adore. Again, it's a rearrangement of a slight rearrangement of the kind of original album version. But I just absolutely love that track. The sentiment behind it, the solo in it is just beautiful. It's an absolutely fantastic album, and a reminder to me that the fact that MTV were showcasing a lot of these artists in that acoustic setting through the MTV Unplugged thing throughout the 90s was just such a great series to kind of sit back and witness and watch each time another set of artists took to that. I mean, MTV did an absolute blinder with that, and some of the best standout acoustic performances that I still absolutely love listening to or watching were from that MTV Unplugged sessions that they kept recording. That's my kind of one to add to the list, which kind of piggybacks off of your one.
Man. Yeah, I think Old Love, amazing. I mean, Old Love from Unplugged was obviously the first version I heard before I'd heard the original album version.
Same.
And I think I always preferred the Unplugged version, although the 24 Nights version is so good. But yeah, amazing track. I agree, actually. Like the Unplugged era in the 90s from like MTV, there's some amazing Unplugged albums out there. I mean, Sting did one. Sting did an Unplugged that I don't think got released, but you can find like a 45-minute video of most of that performance on YouTube, and it's superb. But anyway, so my next track, so number 2 for me, it actually has got a link to number 1. So Tears in Heaven was the first kind of full song I learned, but when I did my music GCSEs, which here in the UK is kind of like your high school exams, kind of, when you graduate high school, my music GCSEs, I had to do a performance, had to do an ensemble performance with another performer and a solo performance, and Tears in Heaven was my ensemble, so I did that with a drummer who, but my solo performance is my second choice acoustic song, which is Blackbird by the Beatles. That was what I did as a solo thing, and that's like, if you hand me an acoustic guitar, that's what I'll generally play. There's probably a couple of songs with it. Blackbird and another song that's on my list are always the things I play when I pick up an acoustic guitar. Blackbird for me is just it's a perfect song, as well as just being a brilliant solo acoustic, if you don't count the birds singing.
Yes, exactly. It's a great track. This one came to me later in my life when I was. I mean, obviously the track is a lot older than I knew, but it came to me when I was like in my 30s. Like I kind of heard it in the background as like, not being a huge Beatles fan, but liking and appreciating a lot of their song. Just kind of like, it's always a song I was kind of aware of, but had never really sat down and listened to, let alone learned how to play. And then as soon as I started to play it, just exactly like you, it's one of those ones that I just love sitting and playing on an acoustic. Once you've got it under your fingers, it's as relaxing to play and enjoyable to play, just to chill out to, as it is to just listen to and not play, if that makes sense. It's it's a really beautiful piece. Yeah, great. And another one to test out the guitar to.
It's a beautiful song to play and listen to, but it's what I love about it so much is there's like this little kind of journey you kind of go on when you're listening to the verse. You know, you've got the intro and it's all happy and nice, and then, you know, the kind of theme goes up into this, you know, other section, and you kind of feel, I don't know if I'm making sense. It's so well constructed as a song and beautifully sung, you know, and the theme of what McCartney's singing about in it, you really get carried along with it. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of the way the chords move and support the kind of feeling of the song. It's just such a, you know, I mean, it's one person on a guitar.
Mm.
You know, if you can write a song that just needs you to sing one melody and play one thing underneath it on a guitar, then you've cracked it. You know, that's what Blackbird is for me.
Yeah.
It's that kind of perfect example of a one-man band kind of thing, one person playing one instrument and saying everything that needs to be said without adding anything else. But dude, what's your number 2?
Great track. Right, so I'm going to choose this one next, which is just like just a complete departure from what we've just described, like the other end of the extreme in terms of acoustic playing, which is it's a track called Beyond the Mirage, and it's a trio of 3 of the most talented guitarists to have ever graced the face of the earth, right? So Paco de Lucia, John McLaughlin, and Al Di Meola.
Yeah.
You know, just absolute forces to be reckoned with, right? Accomplished players in their own right. I think it's going back like over 15 years or so, maybe longer. The 3 of them got together and did a series of recordings, but also live performances. And this particular one that I've shared with you, which is it's kind of live recorded, but then subsequently had a little bit of production applied to it. But it is just, for me, one of those standout test tracks for a piece of hi-fi, but also just the playing and the interplay between those 3 incredibly accomplished guitarists. It's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. It's not stripped down, it's not subtle. It is super melodic, and it is super technical and inspiring. So yeah, as a acoustic guitar player, if you listen to that and if you like kind of Latin jazz type stuff, just have a check that out. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man, that's such a good choice, because a couple of years ago, coincidentally, I kind of went down a little bit of an Al Di Meola rabbit hole. Like, I got back into listening to some of his early fusion stuff because, partly because like his guitar tone is awesome, like a really great tone, and he's a fantastic technical player, but you know, within that kind of Latin style, you know, like harmonic minor stuff, you know.
Yes.
It's just amazing at it. And then whilst I was on YouTube looking at videos, this video popped up of a live performance of those 3 guys, you know, Paco de Lucia, Al Di Meola and John McLaughlin. And I remember watching it just mesmerised. Like, these 3 guys are just sat there on acoustic guitars, just kind of look at each other, and they're doing that kind of classic jazz thing of, we're choosing a song, we're going to play the theme, and then you're going to take a solo, and then we'll come back to the theme, you're going to do a solo. And they kind of went round about a 10-minute thing, and they shredded, man. And they're all on acoustics. Like, Paco de Lucia is just sat there on this old nylon string, his fingers like, you know, Matteo Mancuso, the guy like that.
That's it, exactly.
Just absolutely melting faces.
Isn't it?
And then they come back to this beautiful melody, and just absolutely virtuosos, those guys. Amazing choice, dude. Such a great song.
I'm so pleased you know that track.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I just like a very recent discovery for me for those 3.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, in the last couple of years, at least, whilst I was kind of looking for Al Di Meola stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, just amazing kind of interplay between the 3 of them.
Absolutely. And again, one way, when you listen to it on a nice piece of equipment, you can place in virtual space exactly where each of the 3 of them are sitting.
Wow.
And you can hear, like, it's been recorded so beautifully.
Like you're in the room with them, kind of.
Like you're in the room with them. And if you close your eyes, you can see, that's where Al Di Meola is sitting, that's where Paco is, and that's where John is. And you can hear their different parts. That's the other thing about it, is they're each playing 3 very different acoustics in terms of the tonal properties of it. So it's a wonderful track for being able to really pull out the sound of a flamenco nylon strung guitar plus a a kind of, I think it's like an Ovation, kind of hard shell back acoustic that Al Di Meola was playing, and then like a kind of Macaferri jazz acoustic style thing that John's playing. And you can hear that in the recording, so it gives you like, well, we're talking about acoustic, but what type of acoustics are we talking about? Because here in one track is all three of them being played by absolute like top of their game players. It's cool.
That's it.
It's cool.
There's so much space between them. Or there's three guitarists. Because sometimes it's hard to hear who's playing what. But like you say, because they're playing their own individual ways and on individual instruments, it puts room amongst all those notes. Such a great choice. I'm going to listen to that one again later on. Right. Number 3 for me is Fragile by Sting. Which is one of my all-time favourite tracks of his. I've always talked about 10 Summoner's Tales being a favourite album of mine. That's not from 10 Summoner's Tales. I actually can't remember which album it's from. It might be Soul Cages, but I could be wrong. But anyway, I love that song so much. It's such a kind of harrowing song in a way, just because it's kind of about the loss and futility of war. But I love the guitar riff. Like I said, this isn't a wholly acoustic song. There's a lot of synth stuff going on in there, but I love the fact that you've got this beautifully recorded kind of nylon guitar that's clearly plugged in as well, like a piezo thing, and I just love the guitar motif that he plays through that song. And then there's a beautiful nylon guitar solo in the middle of it as well. It's awesome.
It's one of the ones that I spent some time learning when I was kind of in my 20s. And one of the ones that gave me the most accomplishment when I figured it out. And it was one of those ones that I figured out myself.
Excellent.
And it took me some weeks of doing to get it under my fingers. I didn't follow the tab. I just listened to it and found, and my knowledge of theory isn't brilliant. So I didn't know all of those different intervals and things. I literally had to just find them by ear. So my version of it is as good as I can get it, but I think sounds pretty darn close. And it's just one of those ones that I've forced myself to repeatedly practice over the years so I don't forget it, because I remember how much time I spent getting into learning it in the first place and doing an arrangement that I could do as a solo performance piece. And so it's one I continuously revisit. And what would it be? 15 years of playing that song? Still not bored of it. Love it.
It's amazing. I love that track.
Absolutely love it.
There we go. Fragile. Cool, dude. Right, next track for you, please.
Oh, okay. So next track for me is one that I think you will love, which is an Eagles number. Right. So again, with the MTV Unplugged kind of theme, this is the live version of Hotel California. Back in the 90s, this was recorded as part of an MTV thing. And it's just epic. I mean, I love the original studio version of that song.
Yeah.
We all do. But I mean, I think they must have known, obviously, how epic that track was. And then so for them to do a live version like this, they had to take it to the next level, clearly, to kind of live up to what that song deserves, right?
Yeah, exactly. Man.
You can't just do a half-hearted live version of it, but with the reputation of a song like that, you just either avoid it or you take it to the next level, and they absolutely do. It's beautiful. Space between the instruments, Latin percussion throughout it, just amazingly recorded and showcasing beautiful acoustic guitar playing for what was a seminal electric guitar track of the day, right? So it's kind of like, wow. Okay.
And of course, we're talking about Hotel California.
Yes, did I not say that?
Didn't say it.
Oh, sorry.
I was like, he's really stretching the tension out on it.
Oh, I thought I said the name of it first. I didn't. Yeah, Hotel California, of course.
Yeah, Hotel California. But like you say, specifically from the Hell Freezes Over tour of the 90s, right? Which is hilarious because was it like in the 70s or early 80s when they split up as a band and they were asked, will you ever get back together? And they said, yeah, when Hell Freezes Over. Because obviously it was a really, I think, an unamicable split. And then when they did get back together, they decided to call it the Hell Freezes Over tour. Hell Frozen Over or whatever.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, that is a great album. That's a really amazing live performance. I love the Eagles. That album, Hotel California, is awesome. I think that was the first album. Somebody may correct me on the Guitar Geek Hangout or whatever. I think that was the first album with Joe Walsh. So he wasn't in the band before that, I don't think. But anyway, good, superb choice, dude. So Moving on, my next one. I think we've both got a Fleetwood Mac song in our list.
We have.
Potentially, different ones. But mine is just such an amazingly well thought out guitar part. It's Never Going Back Again, which is pretty much a solo acoustic thing. But the guitar part, I've tried to learn that a couple of times. I just can't get the right hand stuff down, and then there's some stretches in the left hand, and how Lindsey Buckingham played that and sang at the same time and made it look so easy. It's probably the same words are going to come out your mouth when you talk about.
That's why I'm laughing.
When you talk about your Fleetwood Mac track. But yeah, Never Going Back Again. Beautiful song, sad song, but beautifully played, and such a great acoustic guitar part. One of my all-time favourites. Again, like Blackbird, it's a song that doesn't need anything else. It's just great.
Amazing choice. So let me should I piggyback off of that then?
Yes.
That is a beautiful track, and absolutely acknowledge everything that you said about it in terms of how is he doing it. And my track from Fleetwood Mac, but it's effectively Lindsey Buckingham, right, is Big Love. So there's a performance live at the Warner Brothers Studios, I think is the one that we'll put on the playlist. But he does this live. And the thing is the original recording was a kind of pop song with this kind of nice repeating guitar motif throughout it. But his playing is kind of low in the mix in the album full band electric version of that track. It's there, but it's not like this, right? And this is just him on stage. And I remember first hearing this track and being absolutely convinced that was two people playing guitar and maybe a third person singing. I thought it was two guitarists and a singer on stage. And then when I finally saw the video, I was absolutely gobsmacked that this was one guy on an acoustic and singing it at the same time, because it's just inhuman. The bass line that he's got going with his thumb, plus then the repeating melodies and percussive strumming he's doing with his other fingers on his right hand, let alone the chords or shapes that he's doing on his left hand, and then he's singing at full brute force over the entire thing, and it doesn't necessarily match the cadence of what he's playing on the guitar in terms of it being an easy song to sing and play at the same time. And then but he makes it look very easy, and he doesn't drop a note throughout the entire thing, which shows you the skill of the man, but also the years of dedication and practice into doing this. And then at the end of the performance, you can clearly hear him kind of out of breath as he's thanking the audience, but you're kind of like, I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even half attempt to do it. And it's a track that I've tried to learn at least some of the key elements to it over the years. I think Paul David's, that kind of famous YouTube guitarist guy, does a famous breakdown of this song as to why it's so difficult and so, amazing. And kind of his lesson on how to play it properly is probably the best one that I found online. If anyone's wanting to have a go at learning it, check out the Paul David's version, because he properly forensically breaks it down and shows you the mistakes people often make in trying to play it. But it doesn't make it any easier once you've dissected it. It's just and then on top of all of that, it's a really great pop song to just listen to.
Really great pop song. It's such a. Do you know what astounds me about the song? It's the attack he has on the guitar. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you listen to Never Going Back Again, which is another Lindsey Buckingham guitar. He's plugging that kind of like you would hear Blackbird, like you would hear other people plug. It's like when he's playing Big Love on that acoustic version, it sounds like he's going to tear the strings off the guitar almost. There's so much attack on the strings, and there's periods in the song where the tone of the guitar changes because the attack. It's like the guitar must be exhausted after it. It's such a energetic performance. It's astounding. I love that song. It's amazing.
You definitely got away with words, my friend. That is exactly the perfect depiction of it. That guitar must be tired at the end of that song, because I'm almost exhausted listening to it by the end of it. Not because my ears are fatigued, but my emotions are fatigued, because it's just how someone can generate that visceral energy from an acoustic guitar being played and singing to it is it's an
onslaught,
wicked.
Isn't it? It's
It's wicked.
Yeah. Awesome choice, dude. Right, next one for me. I mentioned before about Blackbird being the one I tend to play when I pick up an acoustic, and there's another one. The other one is Why Georgia by John Mayer. Just that opening riff. I mean, the most of the song is just a general kind of radio friendly pop song. That's mostly played on acoustic, and he always plays it on acoustic when he's gigging it with band, whatever. But that opening riff for me is kind of like, that's like my test for an acoustic guitar, and I love that song because being a big Mayer fan and really enjoying what he's done over the years, the first album that I listened to of his was probably actually Room for Squares, his first full live album, and that full album, not a live album, sorry. And obviously that was one of the big songs off that. So there's most of the songs I think on that album are acoustic written songs. But yeah, Why Georgia, John Mayer. Love that song.
Great track, mate. And again, so many parallels with my kind of approach as well. That was the first entry album for me with John Mayer. I think it was his first big kind of breakthrough album anyway. But before I discovered what a monstrous electric player he was.
Yeah.
Because these were all tracks on that album that were pretty much written on an acoustic. So he kind of toured it for years just playing acoustic live. And it kind of shows through. In fact, I think Neon's on that album as well, right?
Neon is off
originally exactly. So anyway, that's an absolutely beautiful piece, and one that I've not learned to date. And it's so funny because I was going to put Neon, the live performance that he did in LA, from that kind of monstrous seminal, what is it, where the light is kind of live session, because his acoustic playing on that is just one that equally frustrates and inspires me in both senses, because it's just so difficult to play. Like that Lindsey Buckingham track, there's just so much going on in terms of rhythmic technique. But I did add a John Mayer track to my list as well, like you did, and it was much later in his career, much later, right, almost at the other end, and it was his acoustic version of Something Like Olivia, which is brilliant. One man and his acoustic guitar, but for John Mayer, it's one that if you find some of his stuff daunting to play, the reason I included this one is because this isn't an easy track to play, even though he makes it look easy, but it is definitely accessible to do his version of it on an acoustic. And it's a really good one for practicing what he does so brilliantly well, which is this kind of percussive, relentless right-hand technique that you almost need to have working on autopilot, so that you can concentrate a little bit on what the left hand's doing, and then if you're getting really good at it, sing over the top of it, which I know you need for a lot of his tracks, particularly like Neon, but I've just never been able to get that kind of finger technique that Neon needs, because I've just not spent enough time with it. But if you're wanting to kind of master that and kind of find a better John Mayer track to start with that kind of thing, check out Something Like Olivia, his acoustic version, and there's plenty of videos of him doing it on YouTube, and you'll see that it's just metronomic. His right hand just does not stop whatsoever, and you've got to force yourself to keep it going, because that's the kind of drive behind the entire song with what his right hand's doing, and then his left hand and vocals are almost layered on top of it. But so I included it more as I love the song, and I think he did a really clever stripped down version of it acoustically, but also as a way to get into his technique a little bit more with a song that's less daunting. That's definitely one to do.
And another one that you'll love because it's so well recorded. Like there's so much detail in the acoustic guitar sound. I love that track, man. Great choice. Couple of John Mayer tracks there. Next
John
one
Mayer tracks from us each. Yeah.
Is an obvious one for people that know me. And another Beatles track, Here Comes the Sun, which again is one of the most like beautifully written acoustic guitar parts for me. The whole song is so really well put together. Interesting fact for you, that was written in Eric Clapton's back garden after they sat out all night one time.
Yes.
Doing, probably doing various drugs and drink and things like that. Yeah. And then sat on his garden, and literally as the morning came, that's when George Harrison wrote the song. Here Comes the Sun is such a great track. Lots of great versions of it out there, but for me, best is always the original one. And yeah, I don't think George Harrison gets enough credit as a songwriter, because he did write some of their biggest hits, you know, Something in the Way She Moves and Here Comes the Sun, and, you know, a few others. But yeah, that's my next one, Here Comes the Sun.
I love that track. The words completely match the tonality of the chord choice and the kind of major mood of that entire song. Yeah. It's literally like the instrumentation invokes that image of Here Comes the Sun. It's just it's the perfect fit for the lyrics and the music, and yeah, it's there's really uplifting.
Kind of chordal thing that he does as well, and so like throughout the verse, it's basically going kind of it's not D, G, and A, because obviously it's capoed up at a particular fret, but it's those shapes. So that we'll pretend that it is, you know. Yeah. So the verse is going, you know, D major, and then it goes to a G, and then like an A7 sus4 kind of thing, which has got the D in it. The sus4 and is the D. And then before it goes into the chorus, instead of going to the A7, he goes to an E7, which is still got the D in it. So you get that common tone between the two chords, but with the kind of the A flat from the E7 instead of the A or the G from the A7. So you get this slight different kind of jarring thing, but with this common tone between the chords. And it's such an amazing feeling when it goes to that chord instead of the A7. I love little turns in songwriting like that, when a songwriter knows how to draw you from one section to the next in a way where the melody just kind of threads through all these different things. Blackbird's the same. And this is also the same. Here Comes the Sun has this wonderful just thread of movement between everything. I just love it so much. Such a brilliant song. Great description.
I'm gonna practice that again. I did learn it once, but that's a lovely one to and great for like one sound checking a guitar to, but also one that everyone loves listening to. So whenever you play that anywhere, everyone smiles because it just invokes that feeling of sunshine. It's great.
It really does. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Nice. Great choice.
Go, dude. Next.
Okay. Next for me, where am I going to go from here? Okay. So, right. I'm gonna kind of talk about one more in a bit more detail, and then I've got like I'm going to go through the remaining ones like fairly quickly, because they are nostalgic ones that people will either like or not, because they're based on kind of bands that I like. So actually, sorry, two more technical ones, and then some kind of nostalgic ones. So you'll remember, and listeners of the podcast will remember, that I went to go and see Eric Bibb last year.
Yeah, I remember you talking about
at the Anvil in Basingstoke, and a player that I'd always been kind of familiar with, but not gone deep into his back catalogue. Had liked a couple of tracks, and for some reason, this particular track had escaped me up until I saw him live, and it was the standout track for me of the night. And for me to have heard that track for the first time on that evening in that theatre with one of my dearest friends, and for me afterwards to go home and go, I've got to find that track and listen to it again and learn how to play it, because the chord changes in it were just beautiful. The lyrics were beautiful. It was just the standout track of the night, and I'd not heard it previously until I saw it live. And there's a track called Come Back Baby by Eric Bibb. Super stripped down blues track. He's recorded loads of different versions of it. So if you're on Spotify or Tidal or whatever, you can find so many different versions of it. And the really cool thing is that each version is very different in terms of not arrangement per se, but just how he's approached it on that day, from how because it's such a simple piece on the guitar, that it showcases things really well, like how he's chosen to do his vibrato that day, or how he's chosen to kind of slide between chord shapes and things. And you can hear the difference in that in these different versions, and how he's approached the vocal lines for what are very simple lyrics, but you can tell his different moods on different days. I know that sounds incredibly weird, but honestly, these different recordings showcase that song played in so many different, slightly subtle styles. But the quintessential version for me is the version that was done at Live AFIP. Okay. I hope I'm saying that right. I think it was an event or a festival or something, but Live a Fit, but that's the one that we'll put in the Spotify playlist for this show. Eric Bibb, Come Back Baby. Oh my God. As a piece of blues guitar playing, and hearing all those little nuances on an acoustic guitar where you can hear the sliding between different shapes and how and when he's chosen to put little microtonal bends in or little bits of vibrato here and there. Just a masterclass, absolute masterclass. And one that you can have a go at yourself. It's one you'll probably spend a lifetime trying to master to the nuance that he does for what is a really simple track. It's like that whole B.B. King thing, right? If you can make that one note sing and move an entire kind of audience of people, you've nailed it. But you'll spend a lifetime trying to do it in the way that B.B. King did. This is that kind of track, but you can have a go and learn it yourself and try and keep getting better at it. Great track.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a brilliant guitarist. I really always enjoyed his music, and I'm happy to see him still out there gigging as well, just as that kind of Lone Ranger almost of an acoustic guitarist. He's a brilliant craftsman of kind of acoustic blues who probably doesn't get as much credit as he should get. But yeah, great choice, man. Great choice. Did you want to do another one as well? Do your other?
I'll do another one to finish my kind of technical masterclass piece, cool. and that is probably my one of my go-to tracks for testing out hi-fi but also great examples of recorded guitar. So this is a track called Long After You're Gone by a now sadly deceased American songwriter called Chris Jones. If you're interested in his back catalogue, you can Google it. There's loads of stuff on Spotify that he's done. I mean, he is a master musician at acoustic guitar playing and songwriting. But this particular track off the album Moonstruck is just one of the most beautifully recorded acoustic guitar sounds I've ever heard. It also happens to have this incredibly low, tight bass instrumentation within the track itself, which doesn't detract from the fact that it's predominantly an acoustic guitar piece, but it just, if you're trying to look at dynamic range of a set of headphones or speakers, or just for your own listening pleasure, really, to have that full spectrum of sound of a beautiful acoustic guitar with some really lovely low-end bass playing through it. And I think it showcases alternate tunings on an acoustic really nicely. Just a standout track. So please go and listen to it. And the lyrics are really deep and haunting. It's one of those kind of melancholy acoustic guitar tracks with really haunting, poignant lyrics that will stay with you for quite a while, I think. And I'm going to indulge. I'm going to tell you one more really technical piece that I just want everyone to go and listen to as well. And it's by Rodrigo and Gabriela, the duo. I mean, how can we not mention them on an acoustic track playlist? But this is one that I described to Damo the other day when I said, next time you're doing a sound check, test out your PA to this. It is what I would call brutal flamenco. It's visceral in the same way that we described with Lindsey Buckingham, but it's these two really accomplished classical guitar players. And it's a track called Savitri by them, which is just absolutely phenomenal. It's visceral. Yeah. It's absolutely visceral and showcases acoustic guitar tone at its best.
Yeah, you got to have that. If it's flamenco, right? It's got to be visceral. It's got to be full of passion, hasn't it? And kind of anger almost. But great choices, dude. I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to quickly run through kind of my last few, and then I've got one more at the end that I want to which is probably the one I want to speak about the most. But like three big ones for me. It's kind of songs that I really love, but also because I wanted to kind of mention one of the guys, James Taylor. I'm a big James Taylor fan. I think he's one of the most important acoustic guitarists for years, and it's kind of spoiled for choice. I didn't want to just pick the obvious ones, like You've Got a Friend or Fire and Rain, although those are beautiful guitar performances. For me, my favourite album of his is his live album from about 1993. It's just called James Taylor Live. It was a double album. You can get it on Spotify. Every song's beautifully performed, but I just love the song Country Road. It's a full band performance, and it's got this wonderful acoustic guitar part, like James Taylor would play, but it's got a great groove as well. The next one for me is The Rain Song by Led Zeppelin. And I know I've said before I'd never really got Led Zeppelin. I still don't really. I always thought they were a bit they sounded a bit too, I don't know what's the word. I always thought it was a bit too kind of, everything sounded a bit too accidental. Maybe that's the wrong way. To me, it sounded a bit like they weren't quite, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I don't know. I never quite got the electric stuff. But I've always thought Jimmy Page's acoustic stuff, like Going to California and things like that. Yeah. Amazing tracks. But The Rain Song, I remember learning that when it was tabbed in a Total Guitar magazine years ago when I was a kid, and I'd just recently got a new acoustic. It's nice Tanglewood, solid top acoustic, and they had the tuning in there because it's a very odd tuning. And I sat down and learned it, and it's such a beautiful song. And then the next one, so the next to last one for me is, do you remember this one? It was a big hit in the 90s by a band called the Crash Test Dummies.
I do. I chuckled when I saw that on your list. We don't normally share our playlists with each other in advance, right? Do we? But we thought on this occasion we would, because in case there was ones that were just too left field, or if we had too many duplicates, knowing that has happened in the past, right? So we did, like, just a few minutes before meeting today, we did share our playlist, and I immediately loved your playlist, but then chuckled out loud at this one, but then nodded and went, "It's a belter!
It's such a great song,
it's great."
And it's obviously it kind of starts with this mixture of piano and acoustic guitar. There's enough acoustic in there that you could say it's kind of an acoustic song. You could certainly play it, solo acoustic. But I love the chord movements and the changes, the story. The fact that they obviously didn't write a chorus for it, he just hummed and they decided to leave it like that and name it that. But yeah, Crash Test Dummies. I can't even take myself seriously saying it.
This is the thing with that track, though, right? Because when it came out, people were almost kind of scoffing, like, "Is this a joke? Like, how can this be the chorus of a song?" But then the weight and kind of parable and story within the verses is so compelling and so kind of moving that it's a song that still stands the test of time, and we all still joke about it because of it's got a ridiculous chorus. But the song is a great track.
It's a great track, and it's from the album God Shuffled His Feet.
That's it.
Which my brother first heard this. I got a lot of music from my brother, actually. I talk about me and my dad having similar music tastes, but my brother was into people like Genesis, Delamitri. He was into a lot of modern dance stuff, but also a lot of really cool kind of indie pop stuff as well. So like Delamitri, and he bought the Crash Test Dummies album on cassette when it came out, and I would listen to it as well. That whole album's absolutely fantastic. There's some superb songs on there, like Afternoons and Coffee Spoons, or Coffee Spoons in the Afternoon. Can't remember one of the but yeah, God Shuffled His Feet is a great track. It's a really superb album. Lots of great songs on it. But yeah, that was there for me. So that's 9 out of my 10 songs, and I've got one more kind of amazing one. Shall I go for it? Shall I do it?
No, let's finish on your one.
Have you got any left?
I've got a few left. So and we'll include them in the playlist. Cool. But effectively, there's 3 songs, and I won't go into much detail of them because they are just quite personal songs to me. But I think they're just great acoustic songs. So there's 3 that kind of epitomise for me kind of 90s, being that guy walking around with a guitar on his back to parties and everything, and just playing stuff often for what people wanted to hear, right? Being like the kind of portable jukebox, and so I'd often play stuff that just wasn't my cup of tea, but people wanted to hear it, right? And I think the reason I didn't put Extreme More Than Words on there is because that was a song people wanted to hear, but one I didn't necessarily always want to play myself, but people loved it, right? And there's loads of songs like that. But the 3 that I always enjoyed playing and just still love listening to this day are a track called Nutshell by Alice in Chains, and it's from their live MTV Unplugged session. that for me was one of the first songs that I learnt to really appreciate playing and singing on an acoustic guitar. And I just think it's atmospheric and it's very 90s kind of grunge, MTV, unplugged type stuff. So you're either into that or you're not. But for me, it's massively nostalgic. So, and I think that whole album, if you're into Alice in Chains, that whole MTV Unplugged session was just beautifully done and recorded. So it's great. But nutshell of that is just a lovely piece of music, I think. Fell on Black Days at Soundgarden. We've mentioned Soundgarden in previous playlists before. I think we spoke quite avidly about Black Hole Sun before, but Chris Cornell, sadly not with us anymore, but Fell on Black Days is one of my favourite Soundgarden tracks, and he did a recording of this, and it's on an album called Songbook, which is effectively a live performance, so with him, with some backing and some bands, but it's not him with the full Soundgarden guys, it's just him doing a lot of stuff, and mostly on acoustic. And this version of Fell on Black Days, again, for just beautifully melancholic, haunting lyrics and his visceral kind of acoustic playing, but not very technical, but just really in tune with the lyrics, and his vocals on it are just on point. So I just love that version of Fell on Black Days. And then the last one is I had to, some of it I enjoyed, some of it I didn't. I had to play a lot of Oasis growing up because that was the band of the moment, right? You're either into Blur or Oasis. I was more into Oasis, and every party that I went to, it was just like, do you know this Oasis one? Do you know this one? And there was a point in time where I pretty much knew all of the Definitely Maybe album and What's the Story, Morning Glory album, like every track on it to sing and play acoustically. And it felt like I was an Oasis tribute band at one point. and some of it I liked, and most of it I could take it or leave it. But there's one track which is just Noel Gallagher playing, and it was actually at a point during the Oasis career where they kind of split up periodically, and probably for the bazillionth time. But he kind of ran away for a night and just like went and chased after this girl on the other side of America that he'd met once before, but they'd exchanged numbers, and he basically quit the band, left them a note, disappeared on an aeroplane. No one knew where he'd gone. And he turned up like 3 days later, but he'd basically just run off and met this girl that he'd seen once and ended up spending the night with her. Just as the song is called, Talk Tonight, and it's just about that kind of thing. But I think the lyrics in it are beautiful, and his playing is beautiful, and it's actually a very nice, serious piece of songmanship from Mr. Noel Gallagher, and one I actually loved playing and singing. So those are my last ones, mate, and that's kind of, they're just very nostalgic 90s,
great choices. I like the fact that you've kind of reached down into your history, not just thought about songs that you think objectively are great acoustic songs, but they mean something to you. That's important in this. That's what I've tried to do as well. But my last one, this is my last one, and this is only the last few years, right? Do you know Tommy Emmanuel? Right.
I do, and actually listened to a fair few tracks of his whilst compiling this playlist, because he's a monstrous player, and there was a couple of tracks of his that almost made this playlist. So yes, very, very, very comfortable with him as an amazing musician. Yeah. Yeah.
So his version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow is one of my favourite pieces of acoustic guitar playing, performing ever. In the one that's on the playlist is the one from his album version, but the one that I love the most is a video he did on YouTube where somebody very beautifully recorded him playing that song kind of more recently. It's quite an old album, I think, that he played it on. And the performance is just like, it's so flawless. There's so many difficult things that he's doing, and he's under such control of his instrument. But sometimes you watch it and you watch him play the guitar. Sometimes you watch it and you just watch his face, and you just see him just in just pure enjoyment of the music. It's like, it's almost got this look on his face as if I'm doing this song because I love the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I want to hear it whenever I want to play guitar, and I'm just loving this piece of music. It's such a wonderful performance of somebody who is a complete and utter master of the instrument, but also who just wants to play wonderful music. So I'm going to put, obviously it's going to be in the playlist, but I'll put a YouTube link in the description as well, and I'll send it to you as well today. I'll send you the link straight after this. promise me you'll watch it today, because I want to know what you think and how you feel after watching it, right? Because when I watch it, sometimes I feel like smashing my guitars up. Sometimes I feel like crying because it's so beautiful, like this performance. But that's the last one for me. Tommy Emmanuel, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Just,
do you know what? He's such a great choice, and it is such a great choice of track. And I think I've heard him do a version of it before, because he's got such an extensive back catalogue of his own stuff and covers and stuff that he's done. I can't recall if I've seen this particular video that you're going to send me, so I'm definitely going to listen to that. But he's just a superb musician and someone I need to listen to more of. Great acoustic guitar player. Great choice, mate. Great choice.
And that's it. That's our 20 tracks. God, bit of a marathon, that, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a marathon. I think I might have taken a bit of a liberty, as I always do. I might have snuck in a little bit more than 10 there, if anyone's counting.
Maybe.
So apologies for that. Apologies for that.
Yeah, I think I've done 10. Yeah, I did 10. I definitely did 10.
You stuck to the rules. I think I've got 11. I think I might have 11. So apologies.
You
apologies
broke the rules.
I stepped up. Yeah, it was that Rodrigo and Gabriella one, which has only recently come into my rotation. But yeah, I snuck that in as number 11 because it's awesome.
Go, man. Well, look, what a fantastic trip. I'm going to enjoy listening to all those tracks that you showed. I hope everyone who's listening enjoys the playlist as well. So in the description of the podcast, wherever you're listening, there will be a link to our LinkTree, and in there you can get to the Spotify playlist for all these songs that we talked about in this episode, and you can go and listen to them as we're talking about them, and then, enjoy it. Enjoy the playlist. Enjoy some music. Hope you find some music you've not listened to before. And yeah, cool. All right, dude.
Well said, buddy. Yeah. What a treat. I can't wait to listen to it myself from back to back. It's great.
All right, dude. Well, have a cracking weekend. Have a cracking week. We'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, lovely to catch up. See you soon, mate.
All the best, bud. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you like what you hear, then why not give the rest of our shows a good listen too? And if you love our podcast and are a regular listener who wants to support the show even more, then consider buying us a coffee over on our Buy Me a Coffee page. Anyway, see you again next time on the Guitar Smarts podcast.